Good morning. Today we're doing law of sines and cosines, day 2, both of them. We're going to do them together so you guys can decide which one to use when. After we're done with this, you'll have a worksheet to work on. So please take out a notebook to take notes on today, or you can write them on the back of your green notes if you prefer. It doesn't matter to me. So long as you're taking notes. If at any time during the video you need this paused, just let me know and I'll pause it so you can get what you need. So let's start off with reviewing the law of sines and law of cosines. So if I look at this triangle, I'm going to call this A, this B, and this C. And opposite of that is A, opposite of this is B, and opposite of angle C is our little side C. So what the law of sines says, if you have angle A, sine of angle A over its side length is proportional to sine of B over its side length, and also proportional to sine of C over its side length. So notice for law of sines, we need an angle and its opposite side and another pair of angles and opposite side. Whereas the law of cosines now says, let's call this A, this B, same triangle. And again, we have little a across from angle A, little b across from angle B, and little c across from angle C. Law of cosine says side C squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times the cosine of our angle C. So this is our angle C. Now recall that side C is always across from angle C. So if we look at law of cosines, we should always need, remember from yesterday, 3 sides and we're trying to find an angle, or we need a side, an angle, and a side, and we're trying to find the opposite side. So let's start by looking at when we should use sine. So I look at this and it wants me to find angle A. So I look and here's angle A, and I look directly across. I see that its opposite side is given. And I also see that I know angle B and its opposite side. So I should be thinking law of sines. And that is the, the sine of A over its opposite side. Oops. Oops. Rewrite this. Law of sines. And that says that the sine of angle A over its opposite side, which is 12, is equal to the sine of angle B, which is 70, over its opposite side, which is 17. And again, we cross multiply and solve. Now I look at this next picture, and I look and I see that it wants me to find AC, which is also known as little b because it's opposite angle B. And I notice I have A and its opposite side, and I have angle B, and I'm trying to find its opposite side. So again, this should lead you to the law of sines, and that says that sine of 65 over 80 is equal to sine of angle B, which is 85, over side B, and again, we'd cross multiply and solve. So remember, for law of sines, we need opposite side and angle, 2 pairs of them. Now let's look and see when we need to use the law of cosines. These 2 examples we did yesterday. So I look and I have a side, an angle, and a side, and I'm trying to find the side opposite the angle. So this is side angle side, like we should be thinking, and we should be thinking law of cosines. Now this example was here, and it looks like a 4 didn't copy in, but we did this example yesterday. And it looks like we have a side, and a side. And we're trying to find the opposite angle. Now, if I were to try to set this up for law of cosines, I would have to do side angle C over 6 is the sine of x over 4. I have too many variables to solve for, so I need to use the law of cosines. All right, so let's start with an example that we're actually going to solve. So I'm going to look at this picture, and I want to solve for side B. So I look and I have a side, an angle, and a side. So I should be thinking law of cosines. The law of cosines, again, is this long formula, c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ac, ab, excuse me, cosine of c. So if I'm going to plug in my information, remember that the side c, even though this says b, is always across from our angle. So c squared is going to equal 12 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 11 times 12 times the cosine of our angle, which is 81. Now, if you recall from yesterday, we can go to our calculator and do this whole thing. So let's go to our calculator. And I'm going to calculate 12 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 11 times 12 times the cosine of 81. And that's going to give us 223. So I go back, c squared equals 223. And again, don't forget the last step. To get rid of a square, we need to square root. So c is going to equal, we're going to second square root our answer, 14.9. And if you write 15, I'm okay with that too. So it's going to equal 14.9, approximately equal to 15. All right, so that's an example where we had to decide to use the law of cosines. Let's look at another example and decide what to use. So I look at this picture and I see that I have an angle and its opposite side, and I have another angle and I'm trying to find the side opposite of that. So I'm hoping this reminds you of the law of sines. And the law of sines, remember, is sine of A over A is equal to sine of B over B. So if we're going to solve this, we do sine of 63 over 10 is equal to sine of 48 over A. We're going to cross multiply to solve, so we get A times the sine of 63 is equal to 10 times the sine of 48. Now I'm solving for A, so I'm going to divide by the sine of 63. Sine of 63. Cancel, I'm left with A equals, I'm going to go to my calculator and see what this equals. 10 times the sine of 48 divided by the sine of 63, and I'm left with 8.34. So that side length A is approximately 8.34. All right, that's an example where we decided to use the law of sines. Now I want you to look at this one and label everything you know. A, B, C. So take a second to draw this triangle down and label everything you know. A, B, and C. So again, I'm going to go across from angle A. That's my little a, and it tells me it's 14. I'm going to go across from angle B. That's my little b. It's 15. Across from angle C. That's my little c. That's 18. And they want me to find the measure of angle A. So take a second, finish drawing your picture, and see what you think you're going to use. I'm hoping you all came to the law of cosines. And I'm hoping it's because you see 3 sides and an angle that we don't know. So you should think side, side, side. Now remember the law of cosine says c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of c. And we're trying to find the angle, so we're going to have to do a couple more steps. But this side right here, even though it would be our little a, is going to be our c in this picture because it's always opposite the angle. So if I'm going to fill this out, I got 14 squared equals 18 squared plus 15 squared minus 2 times 18. Whoopsie. 2 times 18 times 15 times the cosine of my unknown angle A. Now I know that this is 196, 14 squared. I go to my calculator and calculate 15 squared plus 18 squared. And that gives me 549. And at the same time, I know I'm going to have to calculate 2 times 18 times 15, so I'm going to calculate that. That gives me 540. So I got 196 is equal to 196 is equal to 549 minus 540 cosine of A. Sorry, I dropped my marker. I need a minus 549 from both sides. And I'm left with negative 353 equals negative 540 cosine of A. And I need to divide. Don't forget that negative 540. So I need a little more room here. I'm going to go to my calculator and calculate negative 353. So 196 minus, just make sure I calculated, yep, 353 divided by negative 540. And I get 0.6537. Oopsie. That's 353, that's 540. 0.6, what was it again? 0.6537. Being a little slow here. 6537 is equal to cosine of A. And again, remember how we get rid of that cosine is use the inverse. So cosine inverse of 0.6537 is going to equal A. A is going to give me, go to my calculator, do cosine inverse of my answer. And I get 49.17. If you want to round to 49.2, that is perfectly fine. So angle A is approximately 42.2 degrees. All right, last example. I want you to try this one. Let's fill in everything you know. So draw this triangle. And I'm going to label this as A, B, and C. Anytime they give you a blank triangle with measurements, you can label them whatever you want as long as you know that across from angle A is side A. So that's going to be 40. Across from angle B is 50. And we know the measure of angle A is 37. Now I want to find the measure of angle B. So I'm hoping you can stop here and say which one you will be using. So take a minute, get the picture drawn. All right, so let's look at this. We know a side and its opposite angle. And we're trying to find this angle, and we know its opposite side. So we have two pairs here of angles in opposite sides. So we should be thinking law of sines. So I'm going to set this up. I get sine of 37, which is angle A, over its opposite side, which is 40, is equal to the sine of the angle I don't know, which is B, over its opposite side, which is 50. Cross multiply, I get 50 times the sine of 37 is equal to 40 times the sine of B. And I know I'm going to have to solve for B, so I'm going to divide by 40 right away. So I can go to my calculator all in one step. I'm going to go to my calculator, do 50 times the sine of 37. I need to divide that by 40. And I get 0.7522. So 0.7522 equals sine of B. And again, whenever I'm finding an angle, I better use the inverse. So sine inverse of 0.7522 equals B. Let's see what b is going to equal using our calculator. So I get second sine inverse of 0.7. Well, I might as well just use the answer I already have in there. And I get 48.7. So B, angle B, is 48.7. If you want to round to 49 degrees, that's just fine with me. And there's our answer. So again, remember, when we have opposite sides and angles, two pairs, we use law of sines. If we go back and look at when we used law of cosines, it was when we had three sides and we wanted to find an angle, or when we had side, then an angle, then a side. So I hope this makes sense to you on when you use what, and don't forget your formulas in your notes. Law of cosines, law of sines. You will now have time to work on your worksheet, so please work together quietly. Do not get too loud. Tomorrow I will be checking 13.3, 13.4, and this worksheet. So please have everything ready, and I will see you tomorrow.